Welcome to this class. We are going to be discussing security and loss prevention. Security and loss prevention. And this is a course that is very good and important for everyone to take, because just like it is commonly said that security is everyone's business. Security is not one person's business. Security is everybody's business. And so everyone has to be involved in the security of lives and property. When you go out, you want to know you are safe. When you come in, you want to know you are safe. When you go to the market to purchase a few things, you want to be sure you are safe. When you do your movements here and there, you want to also be sure that you are safe. Okay, you also want to prevent any form of loss, because loss creates cost, loss brings damage, loss brings, incurred expenses, and so much more that one sometimes cannot contain at that moment. So the cost, security, and loss prevention is very, very important, so that our lives can be secure, our properties can be secure. And as you're securing, inadvertently, you're also preventing loss. Okay, loss of lives, loss of property, loss of reputation, loss of whatever it is. Okay, so that's what we are going to be examining in this course. Now, security and loss prevention management involves implementing what we call strategies and practices to protect an organization's assets. You want to protect the organization's assets. You want to reduce the level of risk. Yes, reduce the level of risk. You want to prevent any form of theft or stealing. Protect the organizational assets. You want to minimize every form of risk. Yes, risk is any possibility of harm, any possibility of danger. You want to prevent that. And you also want to prevent theft, like stealing. Yes, you want to prevent theft and stealing and enhance the overall safety. So this discipline encompasses various functions such as planning, effective planning. Of course, it all starts from there. Without adequate and proper planning, then you will not be able to achieve your security goal that you have in place. Okay. It also involves budgeting. Security is expensive. Yes, it's expensive, but doing a cost benefit analysis, you will not in any way compare the loss with the input that you will have to make. So planning, budgeting, organizing. What do you mean by organizing? Organizing has to do with putting things in place. Yes, knowing what should be where, who should be in charge, that overall system that you put in place to make sure that the plans that you have can run and work effectively. So to be organizing. Then staffing, you need people that you can trust. You need people who can carry out an activity. You need people who can do that and implement that system of security that you have put in place. We call that staffing. Then directing. Yes, directing is more like when you have delegated those that are to be in charge of one thing or the other. Okay, so that is directing and controlling of security measures. So I take it again that this discipline of security management has to do with various functions like planning, budgeting, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling, just like you do on a managerial basis. So effective loss prevention is crucial for maximizing profit, definitely. By managing preventable losses. In the retail industry, for example, business face significant loss due to theft. Yes, people steal from shops quietly. Before you know, you will see that something that was 10 on the counter is now 8. And sometimes it could be embarrassing or form of accusation to attempt to say you want to search workers, except for things like CCTV and the rest of them. So shoplifting, errors, and even fraudulent activities. So security and loss prevention management is a comprehensive discipline focused on safeguarding on an organization's asset, ranging from physical property and even information to human resource. Information is one of the most crucial aspect and element of security management, because usually before any of all of these sorts could be successfully done, there needs to be information. Everything they do. Sometimes people carry out surveillance to see what is happening in a place, to be able to plan a strategy and tactics. All of those strategies and plans and tactics are simply what we call information gathering. Yeah, they are trying to gather information, trying to put together all the various knowledge they can get to, to launch, if I may use the word, an attack. So in physical property, information to even human resource. Human resource has to do with people, has to do with individuals. Yes, individuals and people are the human resource within a particular system. So this field integrates various strategies to identify, assess, check what it is, and mitigate risks that could lead to financial or reputational damage. Risks that could lead to financial or reputational damage. A robust approach to security and loss prevention not only protects the organization, but also ensures operational continuity and resilience. Operational continuity and resilience. What is security loss prevention? Now, security loss. Okay, so still further digging into the aspect of definition and understanding the broad subject, security loss prevention is an essential business function that helps companies and organizations to what? Minimize risk. Yes, you try to reduce risk, prevent theft, and increase the overall safety of the company. It most often applies in both retail settings and other industries such as manufacturing. It has to do with transportation, hotels, food services. May also hire loss prevention professionals. Loss prevention professionals helps companies address internal and external threats, helping companies increase their bottom line and prevent criminal activity. I would say loss prevention, once primarily related to physical prevention of shoplifting in retail spaces, and it continues to grow. But loss prevention may also refer to data protection, as we said, information management and information protection, and safety and risk management, safety and risk management. Many loss prevention professionals also evaluate stores to identify potential hazard or risk to safety. Also, loss prevention may include completing inventory audits to monitor for any discrepancies, So that is what we have under loss prevention. So we've just introduced the core security and loss prevention, and you see how it applies to all fields, because we mentioned that every aspect of life has to do with security. Every aspect of life has to do with safety, and everyone wants to protect their assets and reduce losses. So let's quickly proceed to the key components of security and loss prevention. Key components of security and loss prevention. So first of all, to be able to carry out effective security and loss prevention, you have to first of all carry out a risk assessment and risk analysis. Okay, what do you mean by risk assessment and risk analysis? You have to first of all even determine the level of risk that place is associated to know what kind of security measure you want to put in place. You cannot spend 10 million to protect something of 2 million. It doesn't make sense. You're not be spending 10 million to protect assets of 2 million. Nobody does that. Okay, so you want to do a cost benefit analysis. You want to measure the level of risk. Okay, these people that we want to protect, these persons or these I beg your pardon, this property, for instance, that I want to protect, what is the level of risk associated with them? How valuable is it? And is it worth the level of input we want to make for security? But of course, imagine if you have a property that is worth 1 billion, or assets that is worth 1 billion. Of course, you know that nothing is not bad investing 10 million to protect something that is worth 1 billion, because if you lose any of that property, you know definitely that what you're going to be losing is so much. All right, so you have to do a risk analysis. First of all, let us understand the level of risk that is involved. So risk assessment and risk analysis. So, and in doing that, you have to identify what we call potential. First of all, it's the identification of potential threat. We call it hazard of threat analysis. Sorry, hazard identification. So identify the potential threats. You have to identify them. What are the potential threats? Conduct evaluations to uncover vulnerabilities within the organization. This include assessing security gaps that may occur. Cybersecurity weakness. How are you protecting using IT? And procedural shortcomings that may be exploited. There may be shortcomings that are within the system that may be taken advantage of. And so because of that, it's very important to, first of all, identify the threats, identify the areas of weaknesses, identify the areas that may be taken advantage of. And secondly, after identifying, you have to do what? Evaluate. Evaluate. What do you mean by evaluation? Evaluation has to do with analyzing the likelihood and the impact and the potential impact on these various areas, and even the cost. So this process involves quantifying risks to prioritize them effectively, focusing on those that pose the greatest challenge and the greatest problem to the system and the organization. So evaluate the risk. Very important. Evaluate what is the cost of that risk. What will it cost to both input to risk, and what is the potential of that risk. Analyze the likelihood and potential impact of the threat that has been identified. Then prioritize and resource allocation. The third point is how to start allocating resources. You create a ranking. And by ranking, we mean you create a system where you can identify the highest threats up to the lowest threats. Oh, okay, this assets in so and so location needs to be protected because the level of value that is there is much more than this other property. Okay, so we have more value here, and so more attention should be given in terms of putting in more resources. So first of all, identify the threats. Secondly, evaluate the risk, evaluate it to determine, putting a ranking on them. Then prioritize resource allocation. How do you allocate resources? What goes to where and how much? So this first stage is what we call risk assessment and analysis. Number two system that we can use is policy development. Policy development. Now, what is policy development? Policy development is the creation of security policies, or what you may want to call security guidelines. They develop comprehensive policies that outline acceptable behavior, security protocols, and procedures. So certain times you go to a place and you're told, sorry, that is the system. You have to check in, you have to check out, you have to ID yourself, we have to ID you, we have to get an information, we have to have your ID card, all of these things are policies that are put in place. So develop comprehensive policies that outline acceptable behaviors, security protocols, and also procedures. These policies should cover areas such as data protection, access control, and emergency response. Data protection, access control, and emergency response. The next under policy development is legal and regulatory compliance. Ensure that all policies adhere to relevant laws of the land and industry standards and regulation. Compliance not only mitigates legal risk, but also enhances the organization's credibility and worthiness. Very important, as we said, that you do what? Check the legal framework within that industry. Are you in the possibly maybe film industry? Are you in the manufacturing industry? Possibly you manufacture something around detergent or food product or concentrate, or equipment and tools. What are the legal requirements? Because even that can lead to loss when not properly done. So develop policies that helps in compliance with legal requirements of that area. So creation of security policies, legal and regulatory compliance, then communication and training. Training is very important. Effective training helps to effectively disseminate policies throughout the organization and provide training to ensure that all employees understand their roles and responsibility in help maintaining and managing security. So communication and training. So the second part of the strategies we are using and implementing, we said the first one was in the key components, risk analysis, second one, policy development. Then third one is the implementation of security measures. Implementation of physical control, physical security controls. Install and maintain surveillance system. Okay, install and maintain surveillance system. Access control. What do you mean by access control? That's the way people enter a facility and the way they come out has to is what we call access control. So they should be installed and maintain good surveillance system where they are monitoring. That's more like a monitoring system. Then you have access control to control in and out of how people go in and come out of a place. Then alarm system to deter and detect unauthorized activities, alarm system that can go off when unauthorized or suspicious activity is, possibly seen or noticed within that particular environment. So physical security control measures can help, or will go a long way to help. Then technology, deploy cyber tools such as firewalls, IDS, intrusion detection systems, and encryption technologies to protect digital assets. Okay, of course, on a day-to-day basis, there are more and more effort to see that cybersecurity is improved because, the web has become a place where everybody where people, especially young people, want to carry out various activities, even crimes, to see that, there's a lot of cyber crime everywhere to extort money, to bully people, to attempt to make money off people in the name of business and all of that. So physical security controls, technological solutions, security personnel. Okay, encryption and detection system. Yes, to detect. We have things like two-way authentication where you're asked for a passcode, where you can authenticate information. All of these things are simply systems using technology to protect, you know, then security personnel employ trained security staff to monitor premises, respond to incidents, and provide a visible deterrent to potential threat, visible deterrent to potential threat. Then the next one is employee training and awareness. I've talked about that earlier. Regular training programs to help them educate employees about what security policies, potential threats, and best practices for prevention. We also have fostering a security culture, and security culture is very important because you want everyone to see security as their business. Everyone sees security as their responsibility. Okay, so employee training and awareness, regular training programs, and fostering a security culture, where encouraging workplace environment where security is shared responsibility. Even as much as there's a security personnel, the security is not left to them only. Yes, you make it a shared responsibility. Everybody should have part. Everybody's eye should be all over to see who is this person. We don't see this person in this premises. Is he employed here? Where is your ID card? We don't know. You came to see somebody. Oh, okay. So, all of that. The person could be somebody who is trying to monitor activities within that environment. So, fostering security culture, encourage workplace environment where security is shared responsibilities. Employees are become vigilant and proactive in identifying and reporting potential issues. Incident reporting mechanisms. Establish clear channels for employees to report serious suspicious activity or security breaches without fear of retribution. Yes, they are not afraid to report problems. They're not afraid to report where they see a problem that may be going on about security, and they can confidently report it without fear that, oh, let me not report so that I'm labeled. Let me not report so that they see me in a bad light. Let me not report, so you don't fear retribution. You don't fear that something bad may happen to you because you reported a security incident or suspected something that was worth reporting. Now, then incident response and recovery. Development of a response plan. What is a response plan? What do we do in case there's a security breach? Where do we run to? Who do we call? Who are the first responders? Is there something that we're supposed to do? So there has to be an incident response plan that outlines steps to take when a security breach occurs, including containment, eradication, and recovery procedure. Then regular testing and drills. Regular testing and drills. When there's proper testing, drills to conduct simulation and tabletop exercises to ensure that response plans are effective and that staff are prepared to act swiftly and appropriately during actual incidents. So the more drills, what is a drill? A drill is a simulation of a real life incident. Yes, you try to mimic and act as though this thing you are doing was happening in real life. So regular testing and drills, conduct simulation and tabletop exercises to ensure that response plans are effective and the staff are prepared to act swiftly and quickly and appropriately during actual incident. Then we have post-incident analysis. After an incident, perform a thorough review to identify lessons learned and update response plans accordingly to prevent future occurrences. Okay, to prevent future occurrences. So that is the aspect of security which I'm going to quickly review before end the class. Then when we meet in our next class, we'll talk about loss prevention. We've defined security, and we've said security is putting in place strategies and systems and practices to do what? Protect organizational assets, reduce risk, and prevent theft, and of course, help to enhance overall organizational safety. We said it's a discipline that encompasses various functions like planning, budgeting, staffing. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. So, directing and controlling of security measures. And we said effective loss prevention is crucial for minimizing, preventable loss. For instance, fire is a preventable loss to a large extent. So safety and loss prevention management is a discipline that focuses on safeguarding organizational assets or protecting organizational assets property loss information, and even human resource like death, like injuries and harm that may come to workers. Then we looked at security and loss prevention, after which we started looking at various components of security measures. The first we said is that you have to do a risk analysis. And under risk analysis, we talked about identifying what the threat may be, evaluate that risk. Evaluation is determine the level of risk and prioritizing them. Then prioritization of an allocation of resources. Allocation of resources is where we now say how much do you need to protect organizational assets. Yes, that is where you go to resource allocation. Then number two, there has to be a policy development. A policy system has to be developed and implemented. Create security policies, create a legal and regulatory compliance, and communication and training. Very important. Then we proceeded to talk about the third point is to implement security measures. Implement security measures. There are physical security control measures, technological security control measures, install and maintain a surveillance system access control, then technological solutions, deploys cybersecurity tools such as firewalls, IDS, encryption. Then security personnel, employ trained security staff to monitor and take care of all assets. So you need a physical security plan, technological control, and also a security personnel. Then we'll talk about developing a standard employee training awareness. Regular training programs. Employee training awareness, regular training programs, fostering a security culture. Yes, fostering a security culture. Incident reporting mechanisms. What do you mean by incident reporting mechanisms? Like where you report activities or incidents that are seen. Then incident reporting, incident response and recovery. Yes, incident response and recovery, where you develop a response plan. What should we do in containment? What do you do when there's a breach? Eradication and recovery procedures. Then regular testing and drills. Regular testing and drills. Conduct simulations and tabletop exercises to help people be able to effectively manage. We said a drill is a simulation of a real life scenario to effectively manage situation. Then lastly, there has to be a post-incident analysis. When you finish, what do you do? Do you just leave it like that, or you carry out reviews? So after an incident, if perform thorough review to identify lessons learned and update response plans according to and prevent occurrences. So with that, this is where we'll wrap up our class for today. When we meet in our next class, we'll continue with loss prevention. Thank you. Bye-bye.